So if you're thinking about visiting Japan, you may have questions about money. So today, I'm going to go over with you 4 main points. What is Japanese yen? What is the US equivalent to Japanese yen? How do you get Japanese yen? And is credit card used in Japan? So the first question, what is Japanese yen? Now, don't be confused by the word yen. Yen basically means dollars. The thing is that in Japan, they don't say Japanese dollars. They don't use that word dollars. Instead, they use yen. So Japanese yen, Japanese dollars is basically the same thing, all right? So moving on to point 2. What is the US equivalent to Japanese yen? And here I broke it down for you. I'm gonna go over it with you. Keep in mind that the exchange rate changes all the time, so I'm gonna give you an approximate estimation of the US equivalent to Japanese yen. Okay, so if you have 1 US dollar, you will get 100 Japanese yen. That's about the same equivalent. Now you may ask, Lindo, why is the US dollar a rectangle and the 100 yen is a circle? Let me show you. This right here is 1 US dollar. But this right here is 100 Japanese yen. Now, $5 will get you about 500 Japanese yen. And it's the same thing. We have the $5 bill right here, and we have the 500 Japanese yen coin. Now, what you can tell immediately comparing it to the 100 Japanese yen is that the 500 Japanese yen coin is not only bigger, but it's gold. So that's nice as well, all right? So $5 equals about 500 Japanese yen. Now we're getting on to bills. So 10 US dollars will get you about 1,000 Japanese yen. Don't get crazy about this number. You're not getting 1,000 US dollars, you're getting 1,000 Japanese yen. 1,000 Japanese yen equals about 10 US dollars. So what does that look like? This right here is 10 US dollars, okay? This right here is 1,000 Japanese yen. And the equivalent is about the same. You have 20 US dollars, and that gives you about 2,000 Japanese yen. Now here's 20 US dollars. Now here's something to keep in mind. I don't have a 2,000 Japanese yen bill to show you. It's actually pretty rare. I've been in Japan already for a year, and not once have I gotten a 2,000 Japanese yen bill. So it is pretty rare. So if you do get it, hold on to it. Now, 50 US dollars gives you about 5,000 Japanese yen. So right here is 50 US dollars, and the equivalent to that would be 5,000 Japanese yen. And lastly, we have 100 US dollars, which gives you about 10,000 Japanese yen. And that would be here. We have 100 US dollars and 10,000 Japanese yen. Now, 2 things I want to point out. First, you will notice that the bills, when comparing the US bills to the Japanese bill, the US bill is smaller, as you can tell. The Japanese yen bill is a little bit bigger, okay? But at the same time, the Japanese yen bill, all of them, not just the 10,000, the 5,000, the 1,000 yen Japanese yen bills, they feel quite sturdy. As opposed to the US dollar bill, it feels a little more delicate. I feel like I would have to be a little more careful with the US dollars so that I don't accidentally rip it. Okay, so let's move on. How do we remember this? Well, thankfully, you may see a pattern here. Let me know if this looks familiar to you. I think you got the point. So the easiest way to remember this is to just imagine that the Japanese yen forgot to include the decimal point. Oops. You may say, Lindo, that's pretty simple, but it's still a little complicated. How would I apply this in real life? Let me give you an example. Let's say you go and you buy something and it costs you 50,000 Japanese yen. And you're like, oh, I forgot. What is the US equivalent to that? Just put the decimal point. So what happens when you put the decimal point? You have 500. $500.00. Basically the same equivalent right here. Remember, it's an estimate, it's about 500 US dollars is about 50,000 Japanese yen. One more example. If you buy something and it costs you 839 Japanese yen, How do you know the US equivalent, the approximate US equivalent? Put the decimal point. $8.39. So hopefully that makes sense to you. Now, moving on to the third question. How do you get Japanese yen? You get Japanese yen by 3 ways that I can think of. The first one, you can convert your money. Lindo, what do you mean? Well, when you come to Japan, let's say right now I have $150 right now. I can convert my money. I could go to a money exchange shop. You can find this, at the airport, right? When you land, the exchange rate probably isn't going to be that great, but you can you can exchange your money at the airport. They have money exchange at some banks and around the city as well. The second way to do this is if you have a debit card. Typically you want one that's international, like Visa or MasterCard. You can go into the ATM, put your debit card in, and you can withdraw money. Just keep in mind, before you travel anywhere, nonetheless Japan, call your bank and let them know you're traveling so that you can actually withdraw money and not have any problems with it. The last point is working. So if you're legally able to live in Japan, you have the proper visa, such as a working visa, and you have permission to work, then you can work at a job and they will pay you in Japanese yen. All right, last point, is credit card used in Japan? So yes, credit card is used a lot in Japan, but you have to keep something in mind. Are you going to be traveling extensively throughout the country, or are you mainly going to stay in Tokyo, for example? If you're gonna stay in the big city, then 80 to 90% of the time, you could just use your card. If you're gonna travel around the country, then I do recommend for you to bring some Japanese yen. Regardless, having Japanese yen is always a good idea because even if you're in Tokyo, there might be some specialty shops. I'm talking about like an onigiri. Do you know what an onigiri is? Onigiri is a rice ball, Japanese rice ball. That does not look like a rice ball. You know what? I'm like Rukia. I can't draw. Ignore this. The point is there are some specialty shops that just accept Japanese yen, and you're definitely going to want to have yen when the time comes. All right, so that wraps up today's video. If you want me to break down a different currency, such as euro, do I have euros? No, I don't have euros on me. A different currency, let me know, and I'll see if I can do that for you. Also, if you're new to the channel, you had to stop me like that? I was just, Really? Anyways, if you're new to the channel, welcome. This channel is all about showing you Japan through the eyes of a foreigner, so subscribe. And also, if you have TikTok, I post a lot of educational content about Japan on there, so follow me on there and let me know what you'd like to see next, okay? All right, guys, see you soon. Bye-bye.